Welcome to the Western Wisconsin Journal. I'm Kendra Grams, pastor at First Presbyterian Church here in Hudson, Wisconsin. And today I'm honored to host another conversation about mental health and mental health support services and resources in the St. Croix Valley as part of our continuing series on the topic. And today I am honored to be joined by Lydia Burr, who is the Director of Operations at the Hazelden Betty Ford Foundation of the Minnesota and Wisconsin area. So let's start with introductions to you, Lydia, and to Hazelden Betty Ford. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you came into this work, and about Hazelden Betty Ford Foundation?
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you. Thanks for the introduction and for having me on. My name is Lydia, as you said, and I'm the Director of Operations for Minnesota and Wisconsin Outpatient Services at Hazelden Betty Ford. And I have been at Hazelden Betty Ford for 13 years, and I'm a graduate of the graduate school at Hazelden, and I'm a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, which is a Minnesota licensure. I came to this field by way of just wanting very much to help people and to help people when they sort of are at their worst moments or when they're feeling the most helpless. And I came to this work because I want to and do believe in people until they can believe in themselves, and then I keep believing in them long after that. And because although addiction and mental health, they're chronic, they're progressive diseases, they're also diseases from which we can see a full recovery, we can see people really go on to thrive. And that's something really special. There are miracles in the work. And so I feel really connected to it in that way. And as far as Hazelden Betty Ford goes, it's, we're celebrating our 76th year this year from when our first site in Center City, Minnesota started. And really, we offer integrated services to people who have co-occurring mental health and substance use disorder diagnoses, issues, and we help them, we walk the road with them and help them get better. That's really the basis of what we do. Of course, the organization is big. We have a research department, we have a publishing department, we have outreach, and we do advocacy. The core of what we do is help people and families and communities heal and get better. Yeah.
Great. Well, maybe can you speak a little bit more first to that approach of addressing the co-occurring realities and the dual diagnosis? Yeah. What do you see in the field? Why is it so important to work on both the substance abuse challenges or substance use challenges and other mental health, all in an integrative approach as you do?
Sure. I mean, a really high percentage of the people who come into our services have more than one diagnosis. They have a substance use disorder diagnosis, and then they also have one or more mental health diagnoses. And it's sort of a chicken or the egg kind of question. Which one came first? Does somebody have a mental health disorder or diagnosis because of their substance use, or are they using substances to control their mental health struggles? And really, it doesn't necessarily matter so much which one came first. What matters more is holistic care that addresses symptoms of both and introduces coping skills to manage both things. Because when we take one of those things away and we don't treat the other, that one starts to really ramp up. Or if we're treating somebody's, let's say, history of trauma, and they've got diagnoses around trauma, if we're going to do that trauma work without helping with the substance use disorder, chances are they're going to get triggered and use substances, which is going to obviously not help with the trauma work and make it ineffective. So what we know is that addressing those things holistically and treating the whole person is what leads to better outcomes and what leads to sustained recovery. And so we have created this integrated model that can address both of those things at the same time. And those people who don't have a mental health diagnosis, they may have symptoms of mental health symptoms. So there are a lot of people who experience symptoms of depression or anxiety, and maybe they don't meet a full diagnostic criteria, but we still have those coping skills built in to the program to help them with those symptoms, so that, again, that whole person can be treated.
Great. So then in your integrative approach, what are some of the elements you use to help address each person's needs, help them develop those coping skills, a mix of therapy, groups, other interventions and support services? What does that all look like in that integrative holistic care?
So the Hazelden Betty Ford as an organization has several different levels of care. The highest level of care being residential, which is usually the stereotypical treatment, what people think of when they think of treatment. They're removed from their daily life. They go to this place, this residential place, and they live there for a number of days. And that certainly exists, and we certainly offer that. And it certainly is very helpful for people who need that. But we also have an entire continuum of outpatient care that people can access amongst and during their daily lives. So what that looks like is sort of all of the above. We have group therapy where people come in, they are given education every day about sort of a different topic or a different struggle or something recovery oriented. We may have some education on triggers and cravings one day, and the depression and trauma and anxiety the next days. And then they also have this opportunity to be in a group of their peers where they can discuss and process and personalize that topic to themselves and discuss and process through what's going on for them in life, at home, what happened last night, that sort of thing. Then people also have access to individual sessions with their mental health provider, their counselor, their co-occurring professional, whoever that person may be. And we can offer medication-assisted therapies if that's something that someone needs and that's something that they're interested in, psychiatry, medication management, so that we can take multiple approaches toward an overall recovery journey.
Great. It's great to hear. And one of the reasons we're sitting down today is because Hazelden Betty Ford recently opened an outpatient center right here in Hudson. So speak to how that came about and the levels of care that you were just mentioning that are available here in Hudson for those in our region.
So we have just opened an outpatient site on the 14th of April. We opened the site, and we have two different levels of care within that site. So we have our day treatment level of care, or partial hospitalization. That's the highest level of care we offer. It's 5 days a week, 5 hours per day.
Okay.
But people, they still live at home. They come in for the day, they go home for the evening, or if they're living in some other situation like a sober house or something like that.
Got it.
So they have this opportunity to come in and have the bulk of their day structured, but then to also integrate sort of daily living and recovery, attending mutual support groups, meeting with peers outside of the programming, so that they get an opportunity to really gain those skills, get that education, and integrate it. We then also have an intensive outpatient level of care, which is 4 days a week, 3 hours a day. So it's quite a bit less programming for somebody to be engaged in, but it's still that clinical touch point, less often, but still 4 days a week, where they can come to that group. They have that education piece, they have the processing piece, the application, the personalization of the topic and the skill, and have people often do intensive outpatient while they're working. They tend to go back to work. They tend to really sort of integrate that into their daily lives, and we like to keep people engaged in some level of care for as long as possible. So they continue to have that clinical touch point while learning to self-manage their own recovery. So after intensive outpatient, we can offer individual mental health or individual continuing care, that sort of thing. And we will individualize that for the person, what they need and what fits for them.
Got it. Yeah. So maybe speak to then how people come to you to access your services. What is the way for people to either contact you, or do they come through other providers? How does that generally work?
Sure. All of the above. We certainly do get referrals from outside providers, but people can access the care without a referral from a professional. The best way to do that is to go to hazeldenbettyford.org. That is our website. And right on that website, there's an 800 number that people can call, and that will direct them straight into our patient access teams, where they will check insurance benefits, they'll verify that there are benefits, and then that person will be scheduled for an assessment. And when that assessment is done, a level of care recommendation will be made, and we can move somebody into programming. So we really endeavor to keep that process short and quick. When somebody becomes willing to seek care, and when we have that window of opportunity to really engage them in programming, we want to move that along and meet those needs as quickly as possible, and make it as sort of pain-free, as painless as possible to get into programming and start that as quickly as someone's able.
Great. And so now that you're here in Hudson, what is your hope for will you be able to serve far into Western Wisconsin, or what's the hope for being able to expand services further out of the Twin Cities, if you will?
We certainly have hopes and dreams of doing that. Coming into Wisconsin and starting this site in Hudson has really been what I consider to be a labor of love. We want to provide the services that Wisconsin needs, or fill any gaps in services that might exist, and we want to be a resource for the state. Now, having this one physical location in Hudson, of course, doesn't necessarily mean a resource for the whole state, but we do want to expand more into Wisconsin. And we also offer virtual programming so that anybody in Wisconsin can access that virtual programming wherever they live, and we don't have that access barrier of needing to be able to get transportation to Wisconsin, and that's our virtual Wisconsin programming. So we have those options now, and we like I said, it's as of the 14th, so we certainly want to make sure this new site is stabilized and doing well, and we really want to be a member of the community. It's such an amazing community in Hudson. The welcome and open arms that we've received has been it's really been something. So we want to be here for that and expand as we can.
Yeah, and that's great, because I know there are always complexities when you're talking with providers. The Twin Cities aren't far away, but sometimes that state line, you get a new insurance and licensing and all of those things.
Yeah.
So a really important step for us on this side of the border to help hopefully ease some of those things that can be barriers.
We have always treated people from Wisconsin, but they have to come to us, right?
Yeah.
Into Minnesota. I'm so excited to come to them as well. For us to be able to cross that state line as well. There are nuances, of course, and it is something that needs to be done over time, but it's really a huge step for us to have succeeded, and it's been a long-term goal. We've been working on it for a long time, and I'm really excited to be here.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, so finally, we're recording this on May 1st, which is the first day of Mental Health Awareness Month. So I wonder if you could just, as somebody who's in the field, is there one encouragement, piece of advice you could give to everyone in terms of promoting mental health? And then for those maybe who are particularly experiencing a substance use challenge or a mental health challenge, is there an encouragement or a piece of advice you'd give to them specifically?
Yeah, and thank you for asking that question and giving that opportunity in the spirit of the month and in the spirit of, every month. I know that Hazelden Betty Ford, we do a lot of advocacy with the intention of reducing stigma around substance use disorder and mental health. But the work that we do, and as far as society has come, I think there's still quite a ways to go around that stigma. And I think that it still is very difficult for for people to seek help for a substance use disorder or a mental health condition, and it is much easier to go to the doctor with a broken arm or treat diabetes, or something like that. And there's still the stigma around behavioral health and mental health. And I think what I would want people to know is your mental health is truly as important as physical health. And seeking treatment for that and help for that should feel just as comfortable and normal as going to the doctor for a physical health symptom. And we want it to feel that way for you at Hazelden Betty Ford. It's hard to pick up the phone. It's hard to make that call. I totally understand that. But what is on the other side of that call is something really, really special. And it's a really, really amazing community of people who are here and waiting to meet you right where you're at and walk down that road with you. So if you can make that phone call, we will meet you right there.
Great. And that is a good note for all of us, a good reminder that mental health is part of overall health.
It absolutely is.
And we want that health and wholeness for all people. Because it fuels health and wholeness for the community and for those around us in our interconnected world. So, Lydia, thank you. Thank you for the work you do at Hazelden Betty Ford. Thank you to your colleagues. I know it takes a team to support people. So we are grateful for your labor of love that brings even more services to us here in the St. Croix Valley and in the Hudson. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And thank you to all of you for taking time to listen to this important conversation. We do hope that you will do your part to help support yourself and neighbors in mental health and wellness. And as Lydia rightly said, pick up the phone whenever needed. There are people in the world to help at Hazelden Betty Ford and many other places, depending on what your needs are or what the needs are of someone near and dear to you. Empowering others is a good thing to do as well as we seek to reduce the stigma and promote health. So until we are together again, we wish you peace and wholeness. And thank you again for your time and to the River Channel for hosting.